All right, good
Yeah,
start.
that's how you open a podcast.
I'm sure people will love that.
We're tired and drained. We have no energy anymore.
No, staying up till 6 a.m. for like 2 weeks straight probably didn't help.
Well, that's just you.
Yeah, you get fucking college and actual life directions.
They're pointing somewhere. I don't know where.
It's something. Let's talk about this life direction, though. The important life direction. A seasonal anime podcast. The only thing that truly matters in this
Seasonal
cold,
anime
bleak world.
podcast. Whoa. No way.
It's the only thing that truly matters.
Yeah.
Seasonal anime.
Seasonal anime. We
Which we
watch
got got some good shit.
I'd say if you're new here, but you're probably not new here. This is no one would be new here and have stuck around for this long. So to all the people that have been sticking with us, thank you.
And to everyone who just is an exercise in complete patience and has stuck around anyway, thank you too. This is a seasonal anime podcast. We pick, normally we pick 5 shows, but this season, because we've got a 2-core show that we brought over from the last season, we have 6. We pick shows and we talk about them. We are well into the current season, fall 2020.
Yep, and we should just I'm Alex, that's Ian. We should just get started.
Let's get started.
So let's start beating around the proverbial bush.
Yeah, and we'll start with Akudama Drive.
Everything's going wrong for Swindler. She's not having a good time.
At least she wasn't blasted into space to just be trapped on the moon, because there is no moon. Fuck your moon.
Yep, so they end up crash landing as expected somewhere out on the city outskirts. And
spaceship crashes, falling from the sky.
And they decide to go back to Kansai to try to go back to Swindler's house, get some new clothes, and get some supplies, which doesn't go well because as soon as they get back in town, she wants to buy takoyaki again because I guess takoyaki is just her go-to dish.
And it's the dumbest fucking idea ever because
she's a wanted criminal, and as soon as she it's like, yeah, you can buy that, just use your stamp.
What could possibly fucking go wrong?
And the second she does, every alarm starts going off, letting everybody know that, oh, there is a super dangerous Akudama swindler in the area, wanted dead or alive.
It plasters her face over everything. So that backfired. And
remember before when she was buying things with cash?
She didn't have cash, though.
I think she still has that coin that
she's got to give that coin back. That's her one defining character trait. She can't spend that I think it's a 500 yen coin. Yeah. She's got to give it back to a man who clearly doesn't want it or need it. So she was
already several times attempted to give it back to him, and he's like, no, I don't want it.
But she's gonna, goddammit. She's gonna.
But now she has the cops after her and the executioners, and she has to run into hiding. And they find a little, looks like a offshore like oil rig thing.
They go to the dump.
Yeah, they go to the dump.
A shitty administrative building at the dump. And it turns out there's hoodlums that have been making residents.
First there's food there, so they get to eat some canned food.
Swindler does it reminded me of a scene in one of the Jason Bourne movies where, like, he abducts a woman and then he makes her
cut her hair diet.
Yeah. I like the Jason Bourne movies a lot.
I've only seen the first one.
I have watched all of them multiple times.
Even the ones with Hawkeye?
Yeah. I haven't watched those multiple times, but I've seen all of them. To be totally honest, I'm surprised I haven't made like a Jason Bourne Weebstone reference before. Weebstone is compromised. The one man who could take us down. Jason Bourne.
That's Jason Bourne.
It's Jason Bourne. In every movie, there's always one moment where some guy in like a suit or business casual button down is in a big ass room and they all look the same. It's all full of nerds and computers. And he just looks at everyone else and goes, "It's Jason Bourne." And then there's a dramatic musical sting. As if we
Jason
didn't.
Bourne was basically our answer to the Brits with James Bond.
And I personally like it a lot better than some of the other Bonds, but that's because there have been some real bad Bonds.
There's also way more Bonds.
Yeah, there's a lot more to hate or love because there are also some really good ones.
And they have way more time periods of doing it, like, the 60s, where arguably the Roger Moore ones are goofy.
Yeah, they're pretty goofy. But there's no Jason Bourne this week. Instead, Swindler has to be our Jason Bourne because
Yep.
hoodlums show up.
Not hoodlum, like actual like hoodlums, ruffians, if you will.
Ruffians, rough and tumble ne'er-do-wells.
Actually, they're more than ruffians. These guys are just like actual criminals. Because
Legit
ruffians,
bad
you just
dudes.
picture the guys with the missile hair in the street coming up to you, being like, "What are you doing here?
Watch where you're going, idiot. You punk."
Yeah, these guys are full on like the whole like, "Hey, what if we abduct the child and sell it into slavery?
She would fetch a high price.
I'll buy it at a high price."
Oh, what are you selling?
"What are you buying?"
I'll buy it at a high price.
But yeah,
Resident Evil.
So she has to go full big sister mode, and she just goes actual Jason Bourne on these guys, where she kills one. She goes John Wick. She kills one dude with like an opened can.
Yeah, she takes one of the open cans and fucking drives it into his eye. And then she grabs a knife, and as she's surrendering to another guy, she fucking stabs him in the neck with it. And then one dude's got a gun.
And then she takes the other guy's gun and just like shoots him.
Yeah.
It's great. And then the last guy that she stabbed with the knife gets back up, because apparently he's doing better than the guy with the can.
Yeah, I guess the dude stabbed in the throat is in a better position than a man who's been stabbed in the eye. Whatever. Fuck it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, he should
Courier shows up.
Yeah, he should be okay, because there's no way that can is piercing the skull.
No. Like, it'll hurt a lot, and he definitely ain't going to be using it ever again, but, like, he should still be able to function.
But, yeah, so she is about to get attacked by the last guy, but then Courier shows up and punches the guy out with his robotic arm.
Because he's Courier, and he's the coolest man who ever existed.
Oh, and we find out Hoodlum and Doctor are teaming up.
Yeah, because Doctor does research on the immortal kid's blood, and then she basically tracks down Hoodlum and is like, "Hey, I want to find the other kids." And Hoodlum's like, "All right, I will take you to them, as I have planted a tracker on the special good luck charm that was the boys." So now they're going to be hunting the kids.
Oh, and Executioner Girl has a partner now. A new one.
Oh, yeah. Now Executioner Girl is in the position of being the, "I don't work in a team.
She's now the old jaded badass. Except she's not that badass. She just has an eye patch now.
Her whole demeanor has just like flipped now that she has a fucking eye patch. It's crazy to the extent that I am kind of into it.
I do like Executioner Girl.
Yeah.
I hope she still jobs.
Oh, that would be good
if
shit.
You think about it realistically, she was already like worse than him. She should be worse now, because now she has like less depth perception.
Yeah, she has shitty depth perception. She hasn't trained or done any kind of physical activity probably in like at least a week. Shit's probably kind of bad. But now she's paired up with some new young idiot. So we'll see how that goes. I'm into it. I like it.
Yeah, I feel bad for him. It's like, hey, your partner's got a death wish, so good luck.
We're specifically pairing you with this person because they have a death wish. Good luck with that, boss. I want to see how this goes. I like watching these develop.
And then Courier is going to leave. Like, all he basically did was finish the job by delivering the little charm that the brother had to the sister. And Swindler tries to convince him to go and save the brother, but he's like, "Nah, I'm not doing it." She's like, "All right, I'll pay you for it." It's like, "Nah, that's chump change." She's like, "I literally have billions of yen." Nah,
and now I said
chump
that's
change.
Chump change. Bro, come on, man.
And then she gives him a whole spiel about how she's going to see it through to the end, and that this is the only place that she belongs now. And then he's like, all right, I'm in.
I'm in.
I'll do it.
I'll take the job. I'll
And we
take
don't know,
one last job.
We don't know the status of Cutthroat.
He shows up at the very, very, very end.
Oh, was it after the credits?
Yeah. Basically, he's still walking around, but we get a little scene where he walks up to the crashed escape pod and he's like, I'm gonna find ya. So a lot of people are on the trail of Swindler and her new little sister, because they do have a moment together while they're just chilling, getting new clothes, cutting Swindler's hair, where Swindler's like, I'm gonna be your big sister now. That's gonna be my thing. So yeah, it's setting up. We're getting our next big set piece set up.
You know,
I like it.
Yeah, because all of these shows were finally starting to approach the ending.
Yes, except Elena, kind of, because that one's just like
that has no like
yeah
solid like plot.
It just
speaking of Elena, that's the next show on the list. Wandering Witch: The Journey of Elena.
Yes.
So we were due for a downer.
So like the episode starts with a disclaimer that's like, hey, this one's got some pretty graphic shit in it.
Yeah, I saw that one too, and I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, I didn't know how to take that, so I sat on the edge of my seat for like the whole episode.
Yeah, and it wasn't that bad. It wasn't like anything too like, I guess comparatively to this show, but like compared to other shows, I'm like, are we gonna get like Goblin Slayer episode 1 up in here?
No, it doesn't even really compare to Higurashi that we're watching this season.
Yeah, it's just like, I think they maybe did that just because it's like, hey, comparatively to all the other episodes of like, stomping grapes and, looking at a wall, it's a little bit more.
I think the most intense one was probably like plant zombies, I guess, because that one had like kind of a dead body, but nothing really major.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. But yeah, Elena goes to some town and she's complaining about how she has no money. And then, as it is wont to happen in fiction, when someone is complaining about money, a flyer will blow through the wind and hit them, and it will be exactly the job opportunity they're looking for.
Yeah, it literally says looking for witch for a short-term job to make lots of money. It's a little bit convenient, but who cares? It's a plot device.
Yep, so Elena meets this girl, the Lavender Witch Estelle, and she explains to her, like, hey, yeah, so, are you down to help me? And she's just like, yeah, I'm down to get paid. I don't really care about the whole working part, but whatever, I'll do it.
Elena goes into this like I go into work every morning. I'm in it for the money. I don't give a fuck what that entails, as long as I can go home and get paid.
Yeah, so she explains to her, first she shows her how much money she's giving her, and it's like a whole sack of gold coins, and she's like, all right, now I'm curious, because this is a lot of money. What do I have to do? She's like, oh, you just have to accompany me somewhere.
Which is not immediately suspicious at all whatsoever.
And then she gives her a spiel. She's like, all right, so I've been researching time magic, because my best friend ended up becoming a murderer because after her parents died, they were killed by some home invader, and then she had to live with her uncle, and her uncle abused her, and then she became all crazy because of that and killed her uncle. And then she became a serial killer, and then I had to execute her.
So a lot of fucked up stuff happened to this one person, and now we're going to get a time warp plot.
She's like, we're going to go back in time to help her because she's my best friend, and I want there to be a timeline where she is happy. But then after going into this, I'm just like, just because, I don't know, the way this series works is you can kind of call it the second you get the setup for. I'm like, oh, she's the murderer. She murdered the parents. She didn't just go like murder the uncle after. She murdered the parents.
She was the murderer all along.
Yeah. Then we find out that she used a lot of her blood to create the time machine thing, and she is going to wear this ring with Elena that lets them share magic, because after using the spell, it's going to take all of her magic.
For the most part during this sequence, I was like, all right, a whole bunch of fucking time questions. 1, messing around in the past. Are they just going to go back and everything's going to be different? 2, how get back? They haven't explained the mechanics of that yet.
Yeah,
Don't
but the
worry.
second they get there, they're explaining, it's like, yeah, we got an hour, and it'll automatically teleport us back.
And it'll automatically teleport us back to our timeline, the one that's all fucked up. So any changes I make in this one, I won't even get to see.
But she's just doing it because she wants her friend to be happy. And they're going around,
Good
she
luck.
sees her friend, and then she shows up and gives her a big hug. And her friend's just like, you're weird, lady. Because, of course, you immediately assume that if someone just ran up to you, hugged you, and started crying, that you didn't know.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird thing. I'd say that was an appropriate reaction.
Then they go to the parents' house, and they're like, all right, so the plan is we just get the parents to not be there when the robber shows up.
Easy. And how do we do that? I'll pose as my long-lost older sister, and I'll summon them away with a letter from my father.
The explanation we get a little later is actually pretty, like, I guess makes sense for this scene where she's explaining it to the dad, and the dad's like, yeah, it does make sense. You look exactly like my daughter's best friend. Your collarbone and the nape of your neck are exactly the same.
Yeah, that was a statement that I was like, that's a weird thing to notice. Especially since it's the same as a child, which means you've been noticing that about children. Oh no, but we'll get there.
Yep, so they leave, and Elena's waiting outside for the robber, and she's like, man, I've been waiting a while. Where is this guy?
And then the ring kicks in, and she
she's like,
sees
she's using magic. That must mean she found the murderer, but there's no way that a regular person's going to win against someone with magic. But then the ring goes out, and she's like, huh.
And then we come upon a flaming alleyway.
Where the parents have been already stabbed to death repeatedly, and then Estelle has also been stabbed. And there we see, laughing in the flames, is the best friend character, who is a little girl. I'm still wondering, how does she by herself take out 3 people?
In her defense, 2 of those people were her parents, and one of them was a person who went back in time to try and save her.
I'm pretty sure, though, after the first person got stabbed and said, the other 2 people would probably realize, oh, we're about to get stabbed. Defense mode.
I don't know. I'm trying to rationalize something I don't fully understand either.
Like, imagine just you and, like, 2 other people were walking, and then, like, a child goes and tries to murder the entire group of you.
Then I would leave, because that child probably has supernatural powers. But then again, I watch too many movies.
I don't know. I'm just, like, wondering how she took down, like, all 3 of them.
Yeah, they don't show that part or elaborate on it or anything, and I don't really get it. Because, like, you don't even hear any commotion. Like, it just happens.
Yeah. And then she explains to Elena that she was...
I want to know why the fucking alleyway is on fire.
That was probably the magic that the other one did.
Probably?
But I don't know why she failed so hard.
Yeah, she fucked it up and set, like, a whole bunch of boxes on fire.
Like, where she's pelting her with, like, orbs that don't seem to be doing any damage.
Yeah. I guess being a crazy serial killer gives you actual supernatural powers. That's the only
I don't know.
explanation.
Those seem like they had the same force as, like, chucking a basketball at someone's face. Like, yeah, it's going to hurt, but it's not going to kill them.
Yeah. It's not like the magic duel that Elena has with...
where all of that could have been lethal.
Yeah. The Stardust Witch, where it was like, oh shit, this is actual danger.
Instead, hey, let me throw some magic basketballs at you.
The equivalent of a magical Charles Barkley.
Yeah, so she explains to Elena that her parents abused her, and that her dad abused her, and that her mom would hit her for, like, allowing it to happen or being jealous or something. And so that drove her to be a crazy murderer, and and then she's going to go and try to kill Elena, but then Elena actually doesn't do anything, because Estelle gets back up and, like, shoves her into a wall and then just starts pelting her with the basketballs.
There's one thing that has me like, bro, what the fuck are you doing right now? You've got Elena basically detailing to the serial killer child the events of what happens in their timeline. That's the worst fucking idea ever. Because if you get sucked out of that timeline, she's immediately going to go and kill the other friend as soon as she physically can.
Yeah,
Like,
but then at the same time, it technically doesn't matter.
it doesn't. I did for one brief moment expect that to be how that timeline ends, so they end up making that entire timeline worse, because then Lavender Witch gets killed, and then the serial killer doesn't get stopped. But I don't know.
But instead
It doesn't.
she does this thing where she's trying to make like a magical collar that like around her that shrinks, and basically it's gonna like decapitate her.
Force
And
choke.
Elena is like, wait, I can't be part of this. I can't give my magic to that. So she takes off the ring to like which I don't know why. It's like this girl just murdered like 2 people and is gonna kill more people. Like she even heard when she found out she became a serial killer, like, I do? That's awesome.
Yeah, that seems like kind of a problem.
Big red flag.
You know, just a
You know what's the
just a
worst thing about that entire
FYI.
timeline and with everything they did? All they managed to do was save the uncle, who is apparently also a bad person.
I will say this: they saved the uncle, and they also made it so that the future or that timeline's Lavender Witch wouldn't have to kill her friend and anyone else that kid kills in the future. I don't know exactly how many people she kills, but
Yeah. But yeah, so they end up she decides to, since Elena took away the magic, to just use her memories as fuel and just forget her best friend. Which, rational. She's like, who needs her anymore?
yeah,
So she
because
burns away her memories to like finish popping her head off.
and that is exactly what happens. The head just goes and
And then
pops
that's
off.
right as the timer kind of clicks over, and then they get sent back to the modern era. And Estelle asks Elena like what's going on and everything. She's like, "Hey, who's Selena? What's her relationship to me?" And Elena tells her like it doesn't matter anymore. And then you see Elena run out real sad because it looks like Estelle is basically dead. She's bled out.
Yeah, she doesn't even take the money.
Yeah, she leaves it. And then she runs to the park and cries how she's useless and can't do anything, or just that she wasn't really ready.
Yeah,
I'm at the same like downer episode, but it was kind of ridiculous.
it was. You make a lot of concessions when you watch this one, because it's like,
Also, I knew from the very beginning, because the show's easy to call. I'm like, oh, the childhood friend killed her parents. She didn't just kill the uncle; she killed the parents too.
yeah, I think that's basically this show in a nutshell. Is like everything is pretty easy to call.
Yeah, and then after it's just like, again, a lot. This episode was a lot. Like I feel like it was trying to be sadder than it was, but then
It didn't come across.
it was just like I was more in the sense just like taken aback by how ridiculous the whole situation was.
Making a story that is supposed to be very emotional, but with characters that we just met this episode is like, because we have no basis for the serial killer girl. She could have just been that fucking crazy the entire time. We have maybe one conversation with her that's not even that long.
Yeah,
So
with
you
her just
can't,
being like, "Who are you? Why are you hugging me?"
yeah, you can't set up those stakes that quickly and have them pay off very satisfyingly, which is a little disappointing, but like I can understand that that's what the story is, and that is what the story is. I don't know.
I think the other one did it better, the one with the crazy witch who like destroyed her entire city because she was mad at her dad.
Yeah, because we got to spend time with that character. We met her. We had a lot of time to build our relationship with that character, and then we got to see that person end up in the sorry state that they were. Because even with the Lavender Witch, we didn't get a whole lot of character development. Everything was so objective based that it was hard to get a real
Her only
feel
character
for
development
that kind
was
of
like,
person.
I'm very sad about my friend and want to do anything to fix her, then to, you lied to me, now I'm angry and going to sacrifice everything to destroy you.
Yeah, I think the witch who destroyed her own city. I forget what that episode's called. It's like the Princess Without a Kingdom or something like that. I think that episode does what this episode intended to, but much better.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this one tried a little too hard.
Yeah, I am inclined to agree. Let's go to a show that
Doesn't try hard. Assault Lily Bouquet. Not much happens this week.
Sports festival.
Yeah, it's the sports festival.
Yeah, it's not even a cross school sports festival. It's
basically,
just like,
yeah, they do sports stuff, and we find out Yuri can fight, and she like copied Yuri's or Yu's stance.
yeah.
And yeah, that's essentially the whole thing of the episode. But the other stuff is like background stuff we learn. We learn the name of the bad guy organization is Gehenna.
We also learn that the reason they outsourced a bunch of shit like for 2 episodes was so that the fight in this one could look nice. And that to me is more important than any of the actual lore.
Yeah, but we do learn that she is a synthetic Lily that some government agencies are trying to make.
Yeah, I called it. The government's making cybernetic gene lilies. They're doing the super lily method and using huge DNA.
Yeah, they're basically they're under watch right now by a bunch of different agencies that are like sneaking onto the campus, and the principal is aware, and he's having the student council keep watch over them, because the student council basically functions as like the secret service of every school in all anime.
Yeah, I when he was giving them orders, I was like, I guess the student council is just a group of shadow assassins and spies. That's cool.
Yeah, that serve the principal instead of like, other faculty or anything. In fact, he's the only faculty we've seen.
Exactly. We haven't seen any other faculty.
Like, there's no other teachers that have popped up.
It makes me, because we haven't actually seen anyone in class. We've heard people talk about going to class.
That's true. They mention class. They have textbooks for class. They schoolwork, but they never go.
They never actually go. It's kind of like Napoleon Dynamite, where we see a lot of people at school, and we see a lot of people sitting at like lunch tables and outside, but we never actually see them like do school things. And also, that movie is great. And
but that's why I kind of miss high school, because you know what was the nice thing about high school? You technically don't do the class. Like, you turn off your brain when you walk into class, and then it turns back on when you go to like the cafeteria or something.
Yeah, and now we do that for work.
Yeah.
So that high school did prepare us for the outside world. It taught us how to shut down. Congrats, United States educational system. It teaches you how to do
drone mode.
You taught us how to run on autopilot. I don't think anything else really happens this episode. We get to see a lot of people.
They just do. We see a bunch of characters from other legions do special abilities, but it's like we don't know those characters.
Oh, there is one thing that had me laughing kind of hard.
The drone kite.
Fuck yeah, the electric death drone kite. It's a new prototype weapon. It's literally just like a remote-controlled kite that shoots storms of lightning. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, I thought that was dumb, too. I'm just like, what? Why don't you just make it a drone? Why does it have to have, like, the string?
I don't know. Unless it's magic string, I guess? But I just don't know. It's stupid, and I love it. What else? Because I think this, I feel a little bad moving on so quickly from it, but like it's just nothing happens.
Nothing happened.
Like we could step by step go through the fights, I guess, but that there's no.
They're
why.
not even
no
really
point.
Things. It's just
Yeah, and they fight.
Bluish purple twin-tailed girl didn't like being called a shrimp. That was one part, and then her special ability is she can blow her entire load at once.
Yeah, that seems like kind of a shitty ability, but
I can unleash all my magic in one attack and then not be able to do anything.
Okay, Megumine.
Yeah.
That is literally her thing.
I guess we'll just move on to The Day I Became a God.
The Day That I Became a God.
Where
we actually learn a lot of shit.
Yeah, this is the big information episode where we learn why it's going to be a sad series. Because, again, he was like, it's going to be sad.
Of course it is, dude. You're the one who made it. They basically
say in this, Hina's probably going to die.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking obvious.
Because she has, like, Lobo syndrome or something.
Yeah, I want to say they might have based it off of something that's actually real, but then I can't remember what any of the stuff from it actually is.
Yeah, so he finds out, he asks his parents about how Hina was related to them, and they explain to him that, they tell him the truth, that she is the granddaughter of their mentor, because I guess they're both doctors, so he is he was their mentor, and he arranged to have them take care of Hina if anything happened to him, because he was getting old and he was, on his way out. She had a mom, the mom died, and the dad abandoned her to go start a new family. So Yuta is like, I'm going to go find her dad, which is always a weird thing when a character wants to get involved. Like, I always found it uncomfortable when a character's like, hey, I know this parent abandoned you, but let's find them anyway.
Yeah.
Because for most people, it's like, I don't think they want to do that.
Having known some people who have been in that situation, they generally don't want that. Normally it's like, I'm good. I'm okay.
We both went our separate ways.
Yep. And that is not something that we need to dredge up.
Yep.
But Yuta is dead set on dredging it up.
She doesn't even care. She's like, I really don't have any interest in meeting him or seeing him again. And he's just like, nah, because that's what families do. We gotta go find him. And she's like, all right, I'll go help you, just because it'll be easier with my power. I don't really care about the whole thing, but since you're so dead set on it, whatever.
Yeah. And it's like a day's trip out. Like, they have to get a hotel on their way back because of how long the trip is.
Yep.
So it's extensive.
They go on the trip, they find the house, and he has a nice house. They ring the doorbell and ask if they can speak to him. And at first, there is a funny scene where they get let inside, and she's giving tea to him and the husband, and they're sitting across from each other. And he's just like, wait a second, Hina's sitting right there, and they didn't give her anything.
Am I
Can
the
other
only
people
one?
not see Hina?
Yeah.
And then the wife says, oh, and I'll have your warm milk ready in a second.
And he actually screams in the living room, so people can see you. And they're like, what are you doing? Dude, what? Why are you screaming?
But yeah, so he ends up talking he talks to the father, and he's like, hey, I wanted to hear about Hina. And he's like, yes, so what did you want to discuss? And he's like, well, this is Hina right here.
I found her.
And the wife has like a mini panic attack over that.
Somewhat understandable when we learn about the origins in a minute, but the dad is essentially like, well, since this is going to be the situation, let's go talk outside.
So they go outside, and they have Hina play with the dog, and he explains to him, she has Logo syndrome, which is a disease that causes your muscles to atrophy, and it's 100% fatal, and there's no cure for it.
And so he made the hard decision of moving on.
Yeah.
Because he cut his losses and dipped because she was outie.
Yeah, he's like, we literally couldn't even communicate.
Yeah. And Yuta is like, I don't understand. How are you guys not super happy? How do you not want to know that she's doing super good right now?
It's one of the weird things, because normally you can get mad in these shows of like, oh, that dad's a deadbeat. But like for him, that's kind of a complicated situation to like make any sort of calls, whether he did like, an acceptable thing or not.
Yeah, and I kind of like it. I like that it's not a cut and dried like, oh, that guy's a dick. It's like, no, there were a lot of factors here on this one.
He even says that was not an easy decision for him to make.
And bringing back the daughter that he had abandoned because he believed that he wasn't even going to be able to speak to her before she died, bringing her back and being like, see, she's fine. is kind of like a shitty thing to do.
Yeah, he's even saying and he acknowledges too. He's like, you probably wouldn't understand this because you're a kid, but this is kind of a cruel thing to do.
Yeah, maybe someday you'll even be in a similar situation yourself.
He tells him basically, I don't know how this sort of thing happened, but miracles don't last forever, and there is no cure for Logos syndrome. I'm a doctor. I would have heard of it.
Because, surprise, everyone's fucking doctors. I guess everyone involved in this story just has a degree.
Yet there's more filmmaking in this series than doctoring.
Exactly. Maybe that's why I don't know. I feel like as a doctor, you can't just like take a day off to help your kids film a stupid movie. I feel like you got to do a little bit more work to get that off.
Especially lately.
Yeah.
Imagine being a doctor is a very busy thing right now. Unless they're like, the scientist-esque doctors where it's like, we don't treat patients. We're busy like doing medical theory and stuff.
That could be. They're research scientists. Yeah. I could see that. But basically, he's like, the show was like, hey guys, the sad thing is Hina's gonna die.
And before they leave too, he even asks, he's like, do you have anything to say to your dad before we leave? She's like, no.
Nah. I do like one of the touches is that the dog's name is Moonin, and Moonin is one of Odin's crows. And Odin, of course, being the name that Hina took when she declared that she was a god. She declared she was Odin, and now she's hanging out with a dog named Moonin, and I like it. I like that little touch.
Yeah, something tells me at the end of this series, the world ends in 30 days thing is probably just her dying, like from her disease.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Because, oh, the hubris of man, to believe that past their own life there is not.
Her world ends in 30 days.
Yeah.
I'm assuming the grandpa guy had some sort of research that had, like, able to extend her life a little bit longer.
Yeah. Probably.
Oh, and then at the end of the episode, after the credits, the wife comes up to him and she's like, honey, we have another visitor. And he opens the door and it's the hacker kid and the bodyguard dude.
Yeah. So they're on the trail. Everything's coming up. Hacker kid. I kind of wonder if they're going to end up killing her either on purpose or by accident. But I don't know. Because I still don't really understand. And I think that's by design, but I don't understand where that plot line is going yet. So it probably would have helped if I had like listened to any of that kind of dialogue up to this point. But I have not.
They're searching for the doctor's research. That's what they're doing.
Yeah. For what purpose and for whom? Who fucking knows? Maybe we'll figure that out by the end of the series. Maybe that'll be the last episode reveal. Who knows?
And then Fire Force is next up.
Fire Force.
So as expected, Maki does come back.
Yeah, we called it. She not only comes back, but she is the one who can save the day.
Yep, because last time we figured out that they were going to try to blow up the Nether. And because we've already seen Maki can control a huge amount of flames.
It's kind of important that she shows up at the last minute to save the day. Because the plan is like, they're going to turn the Nether into a shaped charge, and they're going to use the force of that to punch through the ground and blow up Tokyo.
Yeah, they're going to have the city collapse.
Empire.
But instead, they have Maki divert all the flames underground through, like, geo-cooling or whatever.
Yeah, basically what they're going to do is they're going to divert the flames as far down as they can and try and get it to as much exposed rock as possible, because the temperature of the ground always tries to maintain the same constant temperature, so it disperses the heat. So that's the science.
Yep, so her and her brother work together because they're both second generations.
And they do it. They just kind of do it.
And
they do it and it gets done.
And then Dr. Giovanni is all like, what? They failed?
How is this possible?
Oh, we find out Dr. Giovanni gets all excited too because Shinra mentions that he had an Adola link with him.
And turns out you can only have an Adola link with people who have been touched by Adola in some way.
which he realizes is suspicious because the only people he's ever done that with are Dr. Giovanni and Lieutenant Kondo of the 7th.
Yeah, so what's that guy's deal, huh?
And yeah, that's, for reference, that's the lieutenant who can't fight anymore because he basically used his power so much that now if he uses it, he like crisps himself.
Yeah, he went so hard to kill a demon at one point that he is now functionally powerless. But we end the Giovanni fight, and unfortunately, Giovanni does not get killed.
Yeah, because Arthur decapitates him, but of course that's not enough to kill him because his leg just grows, his head grows spider legs and then runs away.
I like how because the whole fight, he's like, haha, I saw your moves before you did because of my dumbass pheromone power. And Arthur just like nothing personnel teleports behind him and cuts his head off. And he's like,
because apparently he turns into the best assassin when he clears his mind of all thought.
Because Arthur is stupid. And he is the most dumb, powerful character ever. I feel like now more than ever, he fits Tom Bombadil.
They make it up to the surface, and Juggernaut is going to live, but as we suspected, he's losing a hand and a foot.
Yep, but he's going to live. And then
Maki gets to go back to the Fire Force.
Yep. And she's like, you were testing me, weren't you, Lieutenant? And Lieutenant's like, yeah.
Which seems kind of weird because she's already fought the Evangelists with them before.
I think this one was more of a test of character than it was a test of like anything else. He wanted to make sure her heart was in it, because as we've seen, things with the White Hoods and the Evangelist are starting to escalate with dudes fucking suicide bombing themselves.
And the second suffered heavy losses.
Yeah, they lost a lot of people.
But they decided now's the time for the military and the Fire Force to come together.
Yay! So we get more of the second. I'm cool with that. I like those guys. We also get a scene where the captain of the second gives a pep talk to Catgirl. Tamaki. He gives her a pep talk where he's like, hey man, you're not totally useless. And then he gives some rationalization that I personally don't really believe, so I don't remember what it was.
He was like, you held off all the infernals until we got there.
So you still did good. You're not totally useless.
And I'm like, she kind of was.
She kind of was, though. She kind of was.
And that's kind of what happens. And then they're back at the 8th, everything's good, and we are waiting on the next arc now.
Yeah. Maki is now the platoon leader, even though they don't really have a platoon. So
it's a pointless promotion.
Yeah, congrats. You got a meaningless promotion. I still like Fire Force. I liked how this sort of resolved with at least one character at the end of the day being able to say, like, yeah, I am kind of the badass that the 8th needs.
Yeah, and thankfully it was Maki, because Iris can't fight and Tamaki, I guess, also can't fight, so needs one of the females to step it up.
Yeah, and I like Maki too. I like Maki a lot. I would not want anyone to get the impression that we are disparaging her, because she's great. We do wish that Higurashi would continue. So we're moving on into Higurashi now.
Yep. So this is going to be one of the Satoko based arcs,
as expected.
And Keiichi learns about Satoshi, Satoko's brother, who ran away during the last Watanagashi.
Yeah, because later we find out that her parents died after falling off an observation deck.
Because it turns out they were also they were supporters of the dam project, and everyone in the town hates the dam project. So everything bad that happens to anyone relating to that, they believe is, the curse is justice, sort of.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's what happens when you defy the gods.
Yeah, that is the theme at large with Hinamizawa. Don't defy the gods. Don't like the dam.
But yeah, so she's at home. Keiichi goes home because he's challenges Satoko to like a cook-off, and he's at home and he's about to cook for himself, and he almost burns his house down before Satoko and Rika show up.
I like the fucking... He's trying to make a stir fry, and he's like, oh, it says I think it says 1 tablespoon of oil. This is a tablespoon, right? And he pulls out a fucking soup ladle and just dumps it in and gets a volcanic Dragon Ball Z ass looking pillar of flame shooting out of his house.
They end up showing up, spraying it with a fire extinguisher, and tell him, like, you know what, Keiichi, go in the other room. We'll take care of the kitchen.
Keiichi? You're fired. You're fired as the head chef.
So Satoko makes him dinner and stuff, and he realizes that after learning about Satoshi from Rika that, oh, she does this sort of thing. She used to do this sort of thing for her big brother before she ran away. So Keiichi starts developing a sister complex where he's like,
yeah,
I gotta be her big brother.
Yeah, as expected.
Yeah. And it
turns out she's actually a good cook.
Yep. So then he starts spending more time with her, and he's like, hey, this is nice. I haven't really had a sibling before. So they basically seem like brother and sister. And then he gets a call from Rena, and she's like, Keiichi, we really need your help. We need you to join us in this fight. They're backing Satoko into a corner. He's like, what?
And then it's golf club clobbering time.
So he grabs his golf club and heads to the place, and it turns out they just need his help in a baseball game. But not really.
So he shows up looking for fucking Mortal Kombat with his golf club.
And everyone's just staring at him like a weirdo when he shows up with a golf club in his hand, where everyone's just in a baseball uniform.
And he could have backed out of that and been like, fucking... Well, no, because he does at one point actually say, why didn't you tell me it was a baseball game? You don't have to tell me it's a fight.
But they win without him, and he's like, why was I even here? And then it turns out that Mion had a bet with the coach for him, if they won, that he would basically have a barbecue for them.
Yeah. And Satoko gets the game-winning home run.
Yep. And they have the barbecue the next day, and the coach introduces himself to Keiichi as Ire, but most people call him Coach around there. He's the coach of the baseball team, but he's also a doctor at the clinic.
My friends call me Coach. And he also wants his the end this guy,
he is into little girls.
Yeah.
That's Dr. Ire.
Yep.
He's just open about that.
I feel didn't you mention him last week?
I did mention him last week. I'm like, we haven't seen him yet.
Speak of the devil, and he shall appear, Batman.
He's not a bad guy. He's just got some questionable interests.
Yes. Anyway,
I don't remember in any of the arcs of him being like a bad guy, so
he's just like that.
He's just kind of weird.
So before we promote that mindset anymore, let's move on with the plot. Doc Ire introduces himself, is like, hey, I want to marry that small child. And Keiichi's like, that's weird.
At least he prefaces it with when she gets older.
That's
which
true.
Is still not good, but it's like, I guess, better.
I want it to be technically legal. Technically being the operative term.
Also, her brother, Satoshi, used to be on the team.
Yep. And turns out Shion is the ghost manager of the baseball team.
Yeah, because Shion acts like Satoko's like big sister, which is interesting to see because there is a route in the original where... Because Shion's whole thing is Shion had a big crush on Satoshi.
Okay.
So Shion really likes Satoshi. There's one route in the original where Shion kind of blamed, like, it takes place in the past before Keiichi gets here, where Shion and Satoshi are getting close to each other, but she kind of blamed all of Satoshi's problems on Satoko, and she brutally murders Satoko really bad in that arc. Like, just straight up, like, tortures her, and it's just really bad. But then every arc afterwards, they just have them be, the two closest. Like,
well,
hey,
shit.
It's like my little sister, and it's like, I still remember what happened.
Don't think
I'm not going to get I'm not going to get those screams out of my head.
Don't think for a goddamn second that I forgot what you did. That's hard.
There's
That's some
murder and
hard
then
shit.
there's torture.
Higarashi's a dark series.
But yeah, so he promises to Ire and Shion that he'll never make Satoko cry. And
Because
then
he's
later,
the good guy.
he's the big brother. And then later in the episode, we see, we see him at the beginning, but then we see later she ends up going to her uncle's house, Teppei.
And we get a little glimpse of him at the beginning, which shows that he's a big douchebag. At the end, we get to also see that he's still a big douchebag, but with some even worse connotations.
He doesn't do anything like, I know how it makes it seem. He beats her. That's okay. Yeah, he just does that, which is awful still, but it's not the other thing.
Yeah, no comments. So that is the setup for this arc. We have our pieces have been put into play. Yeah. We have our threads, and we must wait.
We got an arc with Teppei again, where I don't know if this is going to play out like it did last time, where Keiichi decides something has to be done about Teppei, because they constantly have been flipping everything, but we'll see.
Yeah. Maybe it'll be the doctor this time.
But to be honest, something does need to be done about Teppei. That is the issue of every arc.
Yeah, if only Keiichi was like on speaking terms with a member of the police force. If only.
I don't know. This is the 1980s. Just like, hey, this guy beats his kid. Okay.
And did he like steal anything?
Yeah. No. Did he do anything like bad to anyone? Well, he hits his kid. Was his kid acting up? He says his kid was. Well, that's all we need.
Was his kid giving him lip? Oh, history. Humanity is just a shining example of.
Yeah. There's no way they would have been able to do anything like 1980s in a culture that is all about like your elder is right.
Yeah. Shit. Even over here, they probably wouldn't have done anything.
No, they wouldn't have done anything in the 80s over here.
No. But yeah,
people who have 80s nostalgia like to neglect the bad parts of the 80s.
I feel like that's nostalgia for any era. People like to look back at the good things.
That's true. People are like, oh man, the 1960s with the hippies, crazy times. Let's just forget about like, Vietnam and like all the assassinations of political figures that were going on.
Yeah, let's forget about how much of a fucking powder keg flaming mess everything was. But the hippies. You remember when men wore suits and khakis everywhere, even to school? Oh, you mean back when women couldn't vote? And all that bad race riots were happening, all that shit. It's not a good place. The world isn't a good place. The world has never been a good place. What?
Rose-tinted goggles.
This is very true. People need to look honestly upon their pasts to truly figure out what lies in the future.
That's what it's like watching. You know what? That's kind of what it's like watching Higurashi, because I watched this like 10 years ago. So I'm sitting there going like, oh yeah, I forgot Ire was like a self-admitted pedophile. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
You just tuned out that part. You forget about it, with the rest of the series.
That's a little problematic. I can't believe I forgot about that. Oops.
Yeah.
We should wrap it up. Do our housekeepings.
Yep.
You enjoyed listening to us ramble about things that are problematic and things that are not so problematic. Then if you're listening on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel to make sure that
smash the like.
Smash the like button. Leave a comment.
Just hit that like button like Teppei hits his niece.
Probably that's probably not the joke you want to make there.
It's fine. They're fictional characters, and it's been happening for over 100 years.
That is
specifically true. that timeline. Just Rika keeps going back, and then just every timeline, Teppei hits his niece.
If you're listening on any of the other platforms, any of our multitude of podcast listening distributed platforms, the iTunes, the Google Plays Music, the Spotify's, iHeartRadio's, Deezer's, feel free to leave reviews or follow on those platforms as well.
Yeah, we're on a lot of things. You can watch us in a lot of places.
Yeah.
What's stopping you? The only thing stopping you is you.
The only thing stopping you is Tepe.
Yeah, because he's going to
Especially
beat
if
you
you're his
next.
niece. Because Tepe's coming for you next, motherfucker. That's why we gotta stop him.
Dude, he's overweight and slightly inebriated. How are you going to stop that?
That's the most dangerous archetype. If you want to receive updates on when we post new episodes, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. That's the first place that we reach out to say, hey, we posted new content.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not.
Pump it up.
It is pretty objectively the last place, considering like it goes live on other platforms before we do that, but that's fine.
Usually Twitter's pretty quick.
Twitter is usually pretty quick.
I think Twitter sometimes is quicker than Libsyn.
Yeah, sometimes.
If I upload it, it is, because then I'll do it like simultaneously.
Yeah, that's true. Because usually I'll make, if I'm doing the editing for the YouTube, a little BTS footage for you here in the housekeeping this week. If I do the editing and uploading, I'll do the Libsyn and the YouTube at the same time. Because I can export the video version for the YouTube channel, and I can export an audio-only version for Libsyn.
Yeah, basically, if Ian does it first, you'll get it on the other one. If I do it first, you'll only get it on YouTube and Twitter.
And worst case scenario, the only difference is like maybe a couple hours. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. I've been doing that a lot recently with shit. Just yeah.
Dude, everyone loves the winning sun.
Everyone loves the fucking winning sun, dude. That's the perfect reaction. It's the best reaction to anything ever.
It's like, hey, Ian, you doing your podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm podcasting.
Anywho, last but not least, our opening song is done by the illustrious Popskyy. Link to him in the video description. Maybe I should put links. I don't know. I don't know if I should put links and shit in the show notes. I'll have to look up if that stuff actually shows up. I don't know. But that's all we got. That's this week. We did it. We did another episode. Congratulations.
We're almost done with the season. We're almost done with 2020.
Good. Fuck it.
Yeah. Please just end it.
End it. Much like I'm going to end this episode right now. Class dismissed.